This Chat with the Experts is brought to you by Angie's List on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to Chat with the Experts, brought to you by Angie's List. I'm Kyle Haag, and I'm sitting here today with Judd Haag of Bone Dry Roofing and Exteriors here in Indianapolis. And we were just talking about windows, but we're talking about all different kinds of home exterior projects today. And it's time for us to shift our focus to another large item when it comes to your home. We're going to talk about siding. Judd, how do you know when it's actually time to replace your siding? That's a big job, and it's a lot of time and expense to undertake. How do you know when it's time to do it?
Yeah, and depending on the style of siding that you currently have, there's a few different telltale signs. So obviously with wood siding, once the paint starts peeling off, you start getting cracks in the wood.
Yeah.
And it gets to a point where, even another coat of paint won't make it look how you want it to look.
Right.
Then it's time to go ahead and replace that wood siding. In terms of if you had old aluminum siding or some of the other styles of vinyl, which you can't really paint, then, they start fading after time, and you go ahead and replace those. So with vinyl, you also can get some chips and some cracks. You get people with the lawnmowers and the weed eaters that kind of chew up those vinyl panels down by the ground. So really, once you just decide that, hey, it's time to redo the house.
Yeah.
Give us a call.
I may have even knocked a baseball or two into the siding on on my parents' home growing up. So, well, just as we talked about with the windows, what are some options that are out there when it comes to siding? What are some of the different types you can choose from?
Yeah, and there's all different types of, looks and reveals. You can have them look like shake. You can have them look like wood panels. You can have them vertical, horizontal. But again, for the sake of time, just to classify them more by material, you've again got kind of the more economical. You would have your vinyl siding. So it's going to be a vinyl panel that you nail on. You're going to have seams that show. So aesthetically, it might not be the most pleasing, but it's a little bit more economical. From there, you've got the engineered wood products and the engineered fiber cement products, and those are going to last longer. They're going to stand up better, and they're going to be a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. And then again, you've got the wood, if you went back with actual wood siding, which again, some homeowners associations will require that you have wood siding or a certain type of siding. And so then you have, really just the character that wood brings to a house. So the trade-off is you pay a little bit more for it.
Yeah. For that situation, I'm assuming you're talking more of like an older historic home or like an older neighborhood where they're trying to keep that aesthetic?
Absolutely, yeah. So we've seen a lot of the wood get replaced with engineered products. It's more like you said, the historical homes or the little cottages where people decide that, they really like that character that the wood gives it.
Well, how does insulation factor into what decision you're going to make about, the siding you're going to put on your home?
It plays a part. There is, if the home is well built, the insulation should actually be inside the wall. Right. So every job Bone Dry does, we install a material called house wrap. It goes on the outside of the wood sheeting before you put the siding off. That helps prevent any wind from blowing through the house, which is going to provide a little bit more insulation. There are some products available, one called Fan Fold. It's like a styrofoam material that you put in behind the siding if the home needs it. But we're finding more and more that homes are properly insulated in the wall cavities. So unless it is one of those, historic homes that was built eons ago, the insulation in the actual walls are typically okay. And you're really just going back with, a house wrap material to help prevent that wind from blowing through there.
Right.
So some of the products like the engineered and the wood do have a better R value than your typical vinyl, but then they do have some insulated vinyl panels that actually come with that styrofoam adhered to the back of it that actually boosts that insulating value above that of a fiberglass or a fiberboard or a wood panel.
Interesting. Well, and talking about siding and windows, these are big jobs, as we've mentioned. How do they factor into the overall value of the home when it's time to sell?
There are some projects that are worth more than others. So if you replace old aluminum siding or old vinyl siding that's falling apart with a James Hardie likes to kind of tout their fact that they consider their product one of the best cost versus value exterior home improvements that you can do. So you do get a pretty good bang for your buck on that. Window replacement, while, some of the stats will say you get about a 70% return on your investment when you go to sell the house. If you have windows that are falling apart or the trim is falling off and you go to try and sell your house and there's another house in the neighborhood that has new windows, you're going to have trouble selling the house. So just from an aesthetic standpoint, new windows just give a lot of pop to the house, as well as, new siding. It can really change the overall face of the house and really make it worth more.
Yeah, I was going to ask that because you mentioned how big of a role the aesthetics play into somebody choosing the windows. Is it the same, do you find a lot of times with siding, or are they thinking about some of the other things as well?
We see a mix. We see, again, aesthetics is a big part of it. It's, it's the homeowner's most significant investment in their life is their home. Yeah. And so they want to make sure that it looks good. And, the roof, the siding, all of it, just, when you drive up, that's what you see. So a lot of people still put a lot of emphasis on those aesthetics, and for good reason.
Well, something that may not be as aesthetically pleasing, but it's still a big part of your overall home's exterior and getting the job done is gutters. So how can you actually take care of the gutters that are existing on your home to make sure they're going to last?
And the most important things with the gutters and to take care and prolong the life of the gutters is going to be to properly maintain them. And the biggest portion of that is making sure they stay clear of debris. I can't tell you how many jobs we go out on that, the gutters are falling off the house, and it's because the downspouts become clogged with either leaves, branches, other debris. Yeah. All that water backs up in those gutters, and that extra weight just pulls those gutters off the house. And so what could have been prevented with some maintenance and some preventative care ends up, becoming an entire gutter replacement project.
Yeah. So let's say somebody didn't do the cleaning tasks. You get out there, the gutters are falling off. You got to do a replacement. What are some things that people should consider, and what options are available?
Definitely not nearly as many options available on the gutters as there are with the siding and the windows, like we talked about. Those are, really aesthetically pleasing items. The gutters, really, they just channel water to one point. So there's some different sizes available. Most of all the new stuff is going to what they call a standard 6-inch gutter. They have hidden hangers, so you don't really see the hangers anymore that hang the gutters up. They do have some options, though. So they have some half rounds, so instead of being kind of a boxy look, they're actually rounded on the bottom. And then they do have different materials. You can get them. Majority of the gutters we install, we see being just made out of aluminum, and it's a pre-painted, baked on enamel so that color doesn't fade over time. And then we do some copper gutters, so those are more of a specialty item. The homeowner that really is looking for that aesthetic look and looking for that really, high-end appeal.
Well, just in general, if we're talking about aluminum gutters, what cost is going to be associated with getting a new set installed on your home?
Majority of the time, it's really just the material itself and then the labor to install them. And so every once in a while, we run into a job where if the gutters are really old, they've been up there for a while, maybe they've been blocked up over time and some water has actually gotten behind the gutters, it's possible to rot out the wood behind them. We call that a fascia board or a gutter board. And so those can get rotted out. And while we can, majority of the time, we know that going into it that there's going to be some bad wood, that is one of the items that can pop up. After we tear off the old gutters, we find that there is some additional damage in there, and we do need to replace that wood.
Yeah. Would you say that's the most common problem that you run into as far as like somebody didn't take care of their gutters and it caused that wood rot on the fascia board? Is that kind of the number one thing you see happen?
It's probably the gutters actually falling off. They get so much debris in them that water works its way behind that by the time that wood starts to rot out like that, the homeowner can't see that wood rot from the ground because they just see the front of the gutter, the bottom of the gutter, and everything looks okay. So by the time it's actually rotted enough to where it causes the gutter to drop and to sag and fall off, that's when they're unfortunately realizing it, and then they're calling us.
Yeah, that's an emergency situation. Well, it is time for us to take another short break here, but don't go away just yet. We'll be back in just a minute with more from Judd, and we're going to talk about what's trending and take a look at some of your listener questions. Stay right here. You're listening to Chat with the Experts, brought to you by Angie's List.
Do you love a good bargain? Angie'sList.com showcases popular deals from highly rated local companies so you can save time and money on the home and health services you need most. Remodeling your kitchen? Painting your house? Cleaning your carpet? We've got a deal for that. Angie's List members even have access to exclusive discounts, up to 80%. Don't waste another day or another dollar. Start shopping now at Angie'sList.com.